Hey, everybody. I am so excited to have my guest on today. When I started in comedy over 25 years ago, my very first paying job was at the Punchline Atlanta as the opening act. And the headliner that night was Henry Cho. How you doing, Henry?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Karen? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I so appreciate you taking time. I hope I didn't pull you off the golf course.
I got it in early just for you.
I have to know how old were you when you started in comedy because you were headlining then.
Off to an early start. I started when I was 24, and I was headlining about less than 2 years later. So it was kind of crazy. But I've been doing this 34 years now. So I was a pretty solid headliner by the time we did the Punchline together back in those days.
Well, and you were so good, and I really learned a lot from that very first week because you were so great at crafting a joke, and that made me more interested in the art of joke writing. I was
Well,
just kind of like, "Hey, look at me, aren't I fun?" But that really made me like really want to be a serious comic.
well, that's great. And I learned that from other guys. I mean, I learned that craft from Seinfeld and Gary Shanley, those guys. And just like one of my first MC jobs, I was MCing for Jerry Seinfeld, and he'd been
Wow,
ahead. He'd been the guy, and it was actually in Atlanta at the Punchline.
you're
Um,
kidding.
no, yeah, I've been doing comedy like 6 months, and his opener couldn't make it, and I was the only clean comedian touring at the time in the region anybody ever heard of. So Ron D'Annunzio called and said, "Hey, can you get down here? Because I need you." And I'd never even met Ron before. And
Really?
I said, "Sure." So I went down there and opened for Jerry, and Jerry really liked what I did. And I ended up going on tour with him for quite throughout, doing the road with him for a while. And that's what I learned. So my first full year of comedy, I got to work opening for Larry Miller, Jerry Seinfeld, Leno, Shanley, Dave Coulier, all those guys. And so I learned how to craft jokes from those guys. And like you, I was just this guy, young college kid, you know, fresh out of college, and I was just telling stories, but I learned how to do it correctly by those guys.
That is so awesome. I never knew that story, and we've worked together, and I just never realized that. How did you actually get started?
Uh, I was in college, University of Tennessee, go Vols. And my buddy asked me, "What do you really want to do?" And I said, I'm going to get in I'm going to try stand up so I can get into acting like Billy Crystal and Steve Martin. He's like, "Well, you're not funny." And I go, "I know, but I think I can do it." So I entered a competition at the Funny Bone, Knoxville. I'd never been there before, never done anything. And I was 13 out of 12. I was the first alternate. So somebody dropped out, and I still got to find out who that is. To this day, I've been trying to find out who dropped out because that gave me the opportunity. So on a Friday, I get a call saying you're on Monday night. So me and my college roommates drive down there Monday, and they're like, "You're really going to do this?" I go, "Yeah." They go, "Well, all right, if you're going to do it, talk about this, tell this story, tell that story." So I went on stage with no act. I didn't know what that was. And I thought it was just a competition for guys like me wanting to try it. Well, it turned out it was Showtime's funniest person in Tennessee competition. And all
Oh
the
wow.
other 11 people were working comedians. So I was going on fifth, and I told my buddies, I'm still going to go up just so I get it out of my system. I'll never do this again. Thanks for being here. And I went up, and my first joke worked, and the rest of them worked, and I killed. I got a standing ovation,
Oh my gosh.
and I won.
You are kidding. You won the competition?
Yeah, first time ever on stage. I walk off. Jerry Kubak, who owned the Funny Bones back then, there were 12: St. Louis, Kansas City, Texas, and Cincinnati. he was standing right there and he goes, "Hey, how long you been doing comedy?" And I said, "That was it." And he goes, "No, really?" I go, "Dude, that was it." And my buddies are going, "That's the first time he's ever done it."
Yeah,
And this is Monday night. He said, "I need an MC this week. Do you want to work?" And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you do 15 minutes, you introduce the other comedians." And I said, "Well, I don't have 15 minutes. I got 5." He goes, "Do that 5 and you'll be fine." So I started working on Wednesday, and then I dropped out of college on Friday, and that was over 34 years ago.
Oh my gosh, what a great story. I love that story. And
Yeah,
and what I do know is that you come from a brilliant family. I mean, you literally have like rocket scientists in your family. So how
yeah.
did they take you becoming a comedian?
Well, as you know, I'm Korean, and my parents immigrated from Seoul, my goodness, 70 years ago now. So I was supposed to be a doctor or play the cello, and uh, I didn't either. So telling jokes in a bar wasn't really accepted. I'll never forget my uncle, my dad's younger brother, passed away a couple years ago, and we're at his funeral, and so their sister walked up to me, and I haven't seen this woman in 20 years, and she just came up and she slugged me in the chest, and then she slapped me in the face and shook her head no. And my daughter's like going, "Dad, what is that?" I go, "She's still not happy with what I'm doing for a living." I mean, it's just she physically abused me.
Yeah,
And yeah,
holding
and
your
Amy's
breath.
like going, I was gonna punch that old lady. I go, "No, no, that's just how it is." Everybody else is a doctor or they split atoms or whatever. And I tell jokes in a bar and they're not happy because I could have been the smartest of all.
Wow. But that is
Yeah.
so awesome that that you did what you loved even in spite of it all.
Yeah. Well, it's like I told my dad, I go, "Your mistake was moving. I was born here." So everybody else was born there. They came up, they were brought up differently. I was born here. It was girls' sports school. Sorry.
Which, to me, a Korean with a Southern accent is a sitcom waiting to happen. And I know you've had a lot of deals, haven't you?
Yes, I've had 5, 6 deals. 3 I passed on because they wanted broken English. They wanted Pat Morita, and I had Pat Morita as my dad. God rest his soul. And they wanted Pat to be Mr. Miyagi, and I said no. Pat speaks perfect English. All that Happy Days stuff he was doing on purpose. That's
Right.
not how he talks. I go, "Let the man talk," and they wouldn't do it. So it got really hard. So I said I walked away from those deals, which was hard. And then I had a 3-year deal, Touchstone ABC. We thought was going to happen, and it didn't. Then a 2-year deal, CBS. Craig Ferguson was my executive producer, and then the writer strike happened, so we couldn't do that. And then I took 10 years off from after that deal. That went from '07 to '09. I said I'm out. Now my kids are at an age where in 5 years they're going to be in real school. I can't be pulling them out. I can't move back to LA. So we hunkered down here in Nashville, and so my 10 years is up this year because Grant will be a senior. And I got approached last year saying, "Hey, the reason you won't do a show is because you don't want to shoot it in LA." I said, "Right." And then this group approached me and they said, "What if you shot it in Atlanta?" And I said, "Now you have my attention." So my buddy Jim Hope and I, who did the CBS deal, Jim's written. He was writer for Lopez and Titus, uh, many Disney shows. He and I go way back.
Right.
Uh, he had a window, so we got paid to write a script. So we got the pilot script, and we were getting ready to cast it, and we're trying to get a little more financing to shoot the pilot. And what I want to do is take this is to go to Netflix or the like. That way we only do 12, 10 or 12. I don't
Yeah.
want to do more than that. I really don't.
Yeah.
Time wise, schedule wise, 12 is enough. We can do 12 great shows. Not that we couldn't do 24, 26, but that's a grind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You don't want to lose that much golf time.
no, that's crazy. You kidding? I could never play. I didn't get into comedy not to play golf. That's the only reason I did it, to have 23 hours a day to kill and get a low handicap.
I love it. Well, best of luck with that. And when Jim, he was part of the GAC special that you had me on, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
and thank you for doing that. So yeah, so in my 10-year absence from Hollywood, I was very fortunate. I got to do a handful of films, did some feature films, and we figured out those don't work because I'm a husband and a father first, and I'm in Vancouver for 2 months, and it just didn't work. So it's not like Spielberg was calling me every day, but I pulled my name out of the hat, and the last film I did feature film was Hillary Duff called me and said, "Hey, I got all your scenes in 5 days. Can you do this movie? It's in LA." And I said, "Yeah, I can go for 5 days." So I hit the ground running. I landed, shot that evening, and I shot on Friday and flew out. I mean, she was true to her word. I was there 5 days because she knew I didn't
Wow.
I didn't want to sacrifice my family time.
I
I
don't
mean, you
blame
know how it is. I'm gone. We're gone enough touring. I don't need to be gone doing other stuff.
you. And the
So
movie set
I
can
got
just drag on forever.
right. So then, and my family doesn't work that way. Just it. I got offered to go to do a film in Australia. I was supposed to be gone for 6 weeks. I just said no, I can't do it. You know, and the director's like going, "What kind of actor are you?" And I go, "Well, I'm a comedian. I can say no." So
You've got this
if
other
I was waiting,
muscle that really pays.
right, if I was waiting tables, I would have been no ticky, no shirty, whatever they wanted. But I'm a comedian. I can do what I want, kind of. I got a great day job.
Yes.
So in the meantime, I sold a sketch show to GAC, which you were part of. Thank you. And Jim Hope was part of that. He and I co-wrote and produced it. And unfortunately, GAC, budget-wise, they just didn't have the money to do it because they actually, for the first time ever, were doing their own programming, and they sunk money in two other projects. And then they had a lump sum. They said, "We have this much. Can you do it for this?" And I'm like, "We will do it for that. It's not what we want,
Right.
and it won't be as good as it could. But yeah, we'll do it. Why not? We'll just do it." So we did it, and it came out great. And it was fun.
Yeah, great fun, and I love being a part of it.
Yeah, it
And
was
and
great.
you're still recognized for the guest starring role you did on Designing Women, aren't you?
Oh my word, yes. Especially during this COVID self quarantine, I think everybody's has watched that show multiple times. It plays all the time anyway, like on Lifetime and everything else. And it was such a cool thing because I mean I'd moved to LA in '89, January '89, and I get a call in June, and Linda Bloodworth Thomason says, "Hey, I just saw you on like Arsenio or something, or what was it?" I go, "Yeah, probably." And she said, "I just wrote a role for you. Will you do it?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "You have to know I've never really acted." And she goes, "I don't care. You just come and do what you do." So I went there, showed up on a Monday, and it was great. I'm there with all the ladies and Meshach Taylor. We do blocking and rehearsal, and I tell Delta Burke and Dixie Carter and Annie Potts, I go, "Look, I've never acted, so y'all got to help me." So my first scene, I'm in the airport, so I'm on an airplane, so I'm sitting, so that's not hard. Well, the other scene, I come walking in, and during rehearsal, they had, the marks, the T
Right.
with tape on the floor, and we did that for 4 days, and then come shooting time, no one told me that the tape was going to be gone. So I walked out on the first scene, and Delta and Dixie are standing there, and I had the first line to cue them, but my first line is, "Where'd my mark go?" And Delta goes, "Oh, bless him. Somebody help him." "Okay, here's what's going to happen, Henry. I'm going to stand here. Dixie's going to stand there. You approach us like you would if we were just standing here, and that's your mark." I said, "Got it."
Well, there's a
So,
little learning curve when it's your first time.
yeah, I had no idea those marks weren't going to be there, but it was great, and they were great ladies. And it's unfortunate that I didn't go back and do more because it was open ended for that. There were some management problems I had who made demands behind my back
Oh,
on the show, so that didn't happen. Yeah, I was told that years later, and it's a shame
oh,
because it was. Well, the crazy thing is, the very next week I had a meeting with Brandon Tartikoff at NBC because after we filmed. Delta Burke was going, "Hey, just come back next week. I'll come pick you up, and you just come in with me, and she'll have to write something in." And I said, "I can't." I said, "Monday I have a meeting with Brandon Tartikoff," and Delta's like, "You're going to get your own show, aren't you?" And I go, "Maybe, but man, I'd really like to come here." So, all those things, it just didn't work, but I would have loved been on that show another few times. They were
no
great
kidding.
ladies.
Such a great show. Did you ever feel like your Southern accent was a detriment, or have you always known that it was kind of that uniqueness was something really special to you?
Here's the crazy thing. So my accent's like it is now, and it evolved because I used to have an East Tennessee accent. I used to talk like this. You say light and right. And then I hosted NBC Friday night videos on NBC back in 95, 96. And the first video I introduced was Aerosmith with Steven Tyler. And
Oh, I love Steven Tyler.
Gary Considine, the producer, came out of the booth. He goes, "Man, I can't understand a word you're saying." He goes, "Move your mouth." I go, "All right, I'll try." And so after, we had to do it a few times, and I finally said Aerosmith with Steven Tyler. He goes, "That's acceptable." Because I mean, I had a thick East Tennessee twang. So my accent is what it is now, and I enunciate, and my kids thank me because they talk like me and not like their cousins in Alabama. But anyway, so being unique, East Tennessee, South Korean, I'm Korean. Um, yeah, Gary Shanley. I don't mean to keep name dropping, but
That's okay.
Paul.
I love the
Well,
story.
Paul McCartney told me never be a name dropper.
He's not here.
It's
Go ahead.
either he or Michael Jackson. I don't know who, but uh, so Gary Shanley always said, "I'm the most famous, unfamous comedian there is," because we're in a restaurant in Hermosa Beach after a show at Comedy Magic Club. It was me, Jerry Seinfeld, Dennis Miller, and Gary Shanley. And our server came up and went, "Oh my gosh, Henry Cho." After I spoke, and she
Oh,
walked off, and Shanley goes, "You're the most famous, unfamous guy there is. Because as soon as you talk, everybody knows it's you. Because there's no one else like you." And I said, "Right."
that's
So
very,
it's been an asset just to separate me that way.
uh-huh.
But you know me, I never wanted to be the Asian guy with a Southern accent. I just wanted to be a comedian
Right.
who happened to be Asian from the South. Uh, Little did I know that it would carry my career the way it has because it totally has separated me from anybody else. I mean, even Seinfeld said, "You can line us all up," and people go, "Yeah, there's Seinfeld, there's Shanley, oh, there's that Henry Cho guy," you know.
Yeah.
So it's made me stand out.
Right. And especially for male comics, I mean, there are so many. And I
Oh,
would think that, you've got to have a way to stand out, or you just kind of go into the melting pot of male comics.
right. Now, as an actor, it was a detriment because people in Hollywood, so this is 1989, 90, 91. No one had ever seen anyone like me. So they weren't sure how it was going to play on television. So everybody wanted me to lose my accent. And I'm sitting there going, you remember Lee Ermey?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, he was Mail Call. He was he's an actor who passed away. He was a drill sergeant. He did the voices
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
Toy
yeah. Okay, I
Story.
know. I know what you mean now.
Okay. So I'm playing in a golf tournament with him, and I was telling him this, that I said, yeah, I had an audition and they didn't like, they wanted me to do it straight, didn't want me to use my accent. And he's like going, that's just stupid. That's what they try to do to me. They try to me, they told me to be less military. And I said, he goes, what roles do you think I'm reading for? He goes, you're reading for a Southern role. Why are you going to not be Southern? I went, exactly. So in the early days of my acting career, that was a big detriment. They wanted me to lose it because they wanted me like everybody else.
But Hollywood has a terrible habit of wanting to take away what got you there. I
Right. Exactly.
I just don't understand. It's like Foxworthy said that wouldn't even let him in the writing room, and he had all these New Yorkers writing the script for the Southern guy, which all came out everything stereotypical and not what he was wanting to say, in his sitcom.
Right. And they placed the show in Indiana because that's the style to them.
Yeah. What, that even makes sense.
Yeah. That's why any show I've done, any deals I've done in the past, oh my gosh, 20 years, I've always fought for created by or co-created by. So and a EP role so I can be in the writer's room.
Right.
Because it's just because what I do and my angle where I'm coming from, no one can really get that unless I'm there explaining it. So,
and don't you think there's a lot of power and freedom in not hanging everything on that? You have your stand-up career, you have a wonderful family. I am crazy about your wife. She is a doll, and you have all of that is important to you, and so you don't have to do any of it.
Right.
And be happy. I mean, that doesn't define you.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And I've been very blessed that way. And I think, I've tried to keep my priorities straight. And I think it's been a benefit to me because that's who I am. And that's a life I wanted. And because somebody asked me, I got interviewed recently and somebody asked me, what's your biggest regret professional wise? And I said, I have none. And they're like, oh, come on. You started out with David Spade and you and Sandler and Judd Apatow. You guys used to hang all the time, and Chris Rock was talking about you, when they did Grown Ups that, you should be there, that you're missing because you just left. And I said, yeah, but I left for my own reasons. No one ran me off.
Right.
No one said you're going to never work in this town again or you're never going to have an opportunity. I left because Hollywood was making me somebody I didn't like. And I had to get back to where I wanted to be. And I reclaimed my faith. And so faith, family, fame, that's how I try to go through life. So I have no regrets.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and they were going, oh, come on, Shirley. And I go, all right, let me tell you this. I said, I will tell you this. I said, there's been times when I've had 3 planes cancel and I'm barely going to make some gig in Wichita. And I would call one of those guys back in the day. And their answer is, you want us to get you a jet? And I'm like, I'm okay. And then I go, what are you doing in Wichita? I go, dude, I'm doing what I do. I'm going to go do a stand-up show because I love doing comedy. And so I've always approached the last 20 years of my career, if not longer. It's still a privilege to get to tell jokes for a living.
Yes, it is.
I'll never forget Seinfeld always carried the fact that we are comedians as a badge of honor, not the low rung on the totem pole. He would introduce me when he was at his show. I was on the new WKRP in Cincinnati, MTM show, and our sound stages were right next to each other. And this was back when Jerry's show was called the Seinfeld Chronicles. The first 2 years, no one watched it.
Right.
I'd go over there. It'd be me, he, and Larry David eating lunch. No one was there. And one time Mary Lou Henner walked in and I was talking and Mary Lou goes, "Oh my goodness, you have a Southern accent." And Jerry goes, "Yeah, he's a comedian." And he said it with that badge of honor. He's a comedian. And I'll never forget that. And so, not everybody does what we do.
No.
And, on Montreal, Just for Laughs Festival, not, I don't know, a decade ago, it was me, Kathy Ladman. It was the old guy people was what they were trying to be nice. I think they called us the legends. It was some made up name, but Larry Miller hosted it. And before we went out, Larry said, "Henry, tell them what I always say." And I gathered everybody around and I said, "Here's what Larry always says. Everybody out there in the audience, they're not like us. They're not like us. It's us against them. They are putting down the gauntlet to make them laugh. It's us against them." So it is a privilege to do what we do. 5 years ago or less, I was in the Minneapolis airport. Paula Poundstone came up behind me and grabbed me. And it was a typical, "Where are you going?" "I'm going here." "You going there?" "Great." And as we broke, we hugged. And as I'm leaving, she goes, "Hey, Henry." I go, "What?" And she said the most profound question to me ever. She said, "Did you ever think we'd get to do this for as long as we've been doing it?" She goes, 30 plus years. And I said, she goes, "I'm talking just telling jokes. I'm talking not having your own series, not being a movie star, just telling jokes." And I said, I would have never thought it, that I could tell jokes for a living this long. And she goes, "Right? How cool is that?" And I go, "You know what? You made my day." She goes, "Well, you made mine." Because because I was sitting there talking. She goes, "I was talking about Brian Regan and Jake Johansson." She goes, "Guys like us, Bobby Slayton, we've had our moments, but we're
But just
comedians."
great comics, bottom line.
Well, thank you. But we're comedians. It's what we do.
Have you always been in LA or Nashville? Were you ever in New York? Living there?
I never lived in New York, but I used to go up there. So Vic Henley, God rest his soul, who
Oh,
we
God rest
lost.
his soul. Yes.
So Vic used to have us up there. Vic would set it up. So me and Foxworthy would drive from Atlanta to Knoxville, grab me, then we'd drive up to New York, and we'd stay with, there are a couple other friends we had. I think Jeff would stay with, I think he stayed with my buddy one time, and then we stayed with Vic one time. But Vic shared his place with a bunch of flight attendants, so there wasn't a lot of room. So, but Vic's the one who set up all the showcases. So, I mean, it was fun. We'd do 3 sets a night at Dangerfields and Catch a Rising Star. So you do one like at 7 o'clock, jump in a cab, run down to the other, just go up and down first in cabs. Doing one at 7, then 7:30, then 9 and 9:15, then midnight and 1 a.m. stuff like that. And we did that all the time back in the day, and that was fun.
I've
Vic,
done that a few times, but nothing to that degree where I had that kind of a group with me and us all go and do it. But it was so much fun, and for me, director fills to catch and do all that just felt like you were in the game. I love it.
Yes, totally different game. Here we were touring road comics, and I was a solid middle kind of headlining then, and Jeff was a headliner. But you get to New York, it's showbiz, and it was cool. I mean, Paul Schaefer was the band leader at Catch a Rising Star.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's
Yeah.
unreal.
Yeah. So And my first time ever going on at Catch a Rising Star, they closed at 2 a.m. I went on at 1:55. And
Glad to get it, right?
oh yeah, Louis told me, he said, hey, even if there's no one here, you go up because I'm going to be watching you because I'm going to tell you whether you get to come on or not. And this is after sitting there, consecutive nights not going on. So I go on at 1:55. There's like 12 people left. They start walking to the door, and I point at them. I go, hey, hang on, stop, please stop. I go, give me 30 seconds. If you don't like it, leave. If you like it, stay. 30 seconds. And I went into my act, and they stayed. And then some people came in the bar, and I think when I got done, I had like 30 people. And
Oh,
and I came up, Foxworthy high-fived me, and Louis came up and goes, okay, tomorrow night, 9:00. And I went, yeah.
and that's because
So
you had the guts to ask people to stay and to pull people in, and
yep,
that's what it takes. You've got to put yourself out there in more ways than one sometimes
exactly.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
what's the best advice you ever got?
Wow.
Or what's
John
the best
Hit-
advice you could
Here's
give?
the best advice. So the first week I ever did comedy. So I've been a comedian now for literally 5 days. Okay. So I started on Monday. So Friday night, between between shows on Friday night, John Hinton was the middle act. John was on The Single Guy, a television show.
Right.
Great comedian.
Um,
And he was just still flipping out. He was going, I can't believe you started Monday. He kept saying that. And I go, dude, yeah. He goes, this is crazy. He goes, you got 12 minutes already from Wednesday. He goes, you got 7 more minutes than you had Wednesday. How's that happen? I go, well, I'm not in I dropped out of college because I was sitting in school writing jokes for 4 days. I mean, Tuesday I went to class. I'm just writing jokes. And so he gave me the best advice. He said, okay, I'm going to tell you something coming from a minority perspective. He goes, there aren't many Asian comedians. And if they are, they do it like an Asian. He goes, you're a good old Southern boy. Do comedy as a good old Southern boy because the Asian stuff is there. And he said, and don't ever do anything derogatory toward being Asian because you don't need to. He said, don't use any slang. Don't say chink, don't say gook, don't say any of those terms because you don't have to. Those other guys have to do that to get a laugh. You don't have to. And so I went, you're right on. That was the best advice I ever got.
yeah, I can see that. Because you are so smart and so crafted that would degrade your comedy, I think, if you did that. And you're so clean. You're perfectly clean. And
100% clean. Yeah.
Yes, and that's advice I give to other comics that are starting out, and I'm sure you do too.
Yes. Well, and I got that advice from Jerry Seinfeld. Seinfeld said, he asked me why I was clean. And I said, well, I fancy myself a Christian, so I try to be clean. And he said, but also professionally. I said, yeah, it's smarter to be clean, I think. He said, yes. He goes, I have never understood why a comedian would work 10 years on a joke that you can never do on television.
I know, it's so true. And you would have never gotten the Seinfeld gig to start with if you hadn't been clean.
Right.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
right. And back in those days, there was only network shows. So your goal was to get on the Tonight Show, or well, there were 4 because Fox showed up, Arsenio, or Pat Sajak was on CBS. So, and you had to be clean. So
Right.
why work hard? Your goal is to get those spots. So Seinfeld put it in perspective, and I went, "You're exactly right."
Well, and I think it never works for someone to say, "Oh, I'll just take out the foul language." I don't think the joke works anymore when you do
No,
that. You
no, because
can't make a clean set out of a blue set by just removing the foul language.
right, and because you've been doing it one way for a decade.
Right. Doesn't work.
Nope.
Is there anything people would be surprised to learn about you?
Ooh, wow. Uh,
Maybe not.
yes. Hey, in college, I could dunk a volleyball.
You are kidding.
Nah, I could put my hand over the rim.
Now I am shocked to learn that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
because you're basketball royalty. But yeah, and I could palm a woman's basketball. They used to be smaller. Are they still
yeah,
smaller?
they're a little smaller.
But they used to be significantly smaller, right?
No,
No,
not
but they used to be a little smaller.
little. They are now. When I played, it was the men's basketball. But
Okay,
then
that's
after I finished, it shrunk down just a little bit.
just a small because I can palm a woman's
Yeah.
basketball and I could dunk that.
I can palm well, I could palm a basketball when I played because I have very large hands and feet for my size. It's
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, I
didn't
wear
know
a size 9 shoe. I have very large hands. I ran into someone at the grocery store not long ago that said, "Can you still palm a basketball?" I remember that picture came out of view in the paper, palming a basketball. Can you still do that? I'm like, "Are you kidding? I can't open a jar of pickles." No, I can't.
Oh, that's funny.
But you must have some serious leaping skills.
I
Tall.
did. I did. That was the crazy thing about being the only Asian kid in my whole area, Knoxville, because I was an athlete, and no one flinched. No one went, "Wow, he's Korean. How can he do that?" Until I was in college. We're playing intramural football, and the team we're playing against went up to my buddy and goes, "Hey, is that Asian guy? Does he really play quarterback?" And my buddy goes, "Yeah." And the guy's like, "Really?" And like my buddy's like, "Yeah, he's always been the quarterback." And so my buddy came up to me and goes, "So these guys can't believe you're the quarterback." And I go, "So I'm thinking, was it because I'm shorter? Or I'm not thinking because I'm Asian. No one's ever, that's never been brought up before in my life."
Right.
And finally, somebody goes, "It's because you're Korean. They've never seen a Korean guy run." And I went, "Ah." So
Did
we
you
got in
like
the huddle and I said, "Okay, changing the first play." They go, "What?" And I said, "I'm throwing a bomb. One of you guys catch it." And I rolled out and I threw this ball so far, no one could even get close to it. And those guys on the other side just kind of looked, and I just kind of put my hands up like, "What?" So,
can't y'all
and
run?
we beat the fire out of them. Yeah, that's the crazy thing. I never knew that I wasn't supposed to be able to do those things until I got in college.
Yeah, and I think it's always a blessing when people don't know they're not supposed to be able to do something because then you think you can do anything.
Right, right. I mean, yeah. So that's one thing that would surprise you. I can dunk a volleyball. I can't anymore, but I could dunk a volleyball.
Yeah, I was always told I was too small to play basketball until I was about, junior high. And then,
Till last week, yeah.
yeah. No, it's not the height that's the problem now.
That's great.
Tell us
That's
something that's on your bucket list.
my bucket
Tell us
list.
something that's on your bucket list.
Oh, I have dreams like all parents. I want to see all my kids marry great people. I want to see grandkids, stuff like that. But my own personal bucket list, there are 3 golf courses uh, that I had multiple opportunities to play, and I didn't in the last 10 years because of soccer games and lacrosse and football and horseback riding and all the things my kids were doing, I'd always say no to going on a golf trip. But there are 3 places I'm going to go while I can still play golf a little at a decent level. So within the next couple years, that's something. Those are my bucket list.
Yeah, knock out those courses. I'm sure you've probably played the honors course here in Chattanooga.
Love the honors. Love the honors. Great course. I love, Chattanooga Country Club's great course. I love them all there. Mecklemore is great. And Sweetens Cove right around the corner in South Pittsburgh used to be a cool little 9-hole secret little place until Peyton Manning bought it. So now everybody and their brothers showing up.
He blew it for you, didn't he?
He did. I told him, I said, you keep it like country, okay? Don't make it nice.
Well, Henry, I so appreciate you coming on. I always like to do a few little series of rapid fire questions because I know that, people always see the stage persona, but I like to give a little behind the scenes of the person. And so I'm going to hit you with a few rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Do you drink your tea sweet or unsweet?
I don't drink tea. If I did, it'd be unsweet.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, I'm a comedian. You know that.
Yeah, that's right. But you were up early this morning because you texted me about this show. So I thought,
it's these crazy kids.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
People driving slow in the fast lane.
I hate that too. Give me one song on your playlist.
It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, AC/DC.
Oh, cool. If you weren't in the entertainment business, what would you be doing?
I was my 5th major in college. I had 5 majors in 6 years. I was in advertising, and I did funny ads. So I'd be in advertising.
Oh, that's cool. Are you an Adidas guy or a Nike guy?
Wow. I'm both, which is bad. I'm Adidas golf clothes. I love their shorts, but I like Nike shoes. Although I do have Adidas golf shoes. I'm Adidas.
I'm Adidas. I live a 3-stripe life. I'm Adidas. What was your first concert you ever attended?
First one I ever attended was Leonard Skinner.
Oh, that's cool. Where at?
Knoxville Coliseum. Me and my buddies used to clean up after all the events. So that was the first one I actually had a seat for. So that's why I say that's the first one. But I used to go to all of them.
Yeah. What was your first car?
74 Ford, 3 on the tree.
You still have it?
No, I wish I did. Oh,
you do.
That was such a great truck.
What was your very first job, not as a comic?
My very first job cleaning, I had a paper route in elementary school, which I saved money to buy a motorcycle, which my parents didn't know about. And so my first job that I got a paycheck from a company was, we used to clean up after all the events at the Coliseum. And so we get paid for 8 hours, no matter how long it took us. And we started at 11 p.m. and worked 7 a.m. And I was like 15 years old. And so we got to go to concerts, and that was my first job.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have a favorite quote or saying?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a favorite quote or saying?
Favorite quote or saying? If you have the power to make someone happy, do it.
That's
I hope
nice.
you got that.
What's your favorite comfort food?
Oh, bread pudding.
Bread pudding. I did not know that about you.
I don't eat many sweets at all. I really don't. But if there's bread pudding or blackberry cobbler, I'm on it.
Because you're a very healthy eater.
Yes.
I know that about you.
That's right.
Red pudding. Okay, what was your favorite TV show growing up?
Andrew Griffith.
Yeah, that was a great one. Loved
That was,
Andy.
yep, that was it. That and Bonanza. That's it.
Which is the greatest joke of all time. I mean,
Oh, hey,
will you share
that's
that?
where it came from.
Will you share
Say
that?
what?
Will you share?
Yeah, well, yeah, I talked about growing up being the only Asian kid in my neighborhood, and we would play Cowboys and Indians, and I hated that game because I was always the cook.
Hop sing.
That's right.
And last question, what is your favorite theater or city to work in? Do you have one?
Oh, no, I don't have one. I've been blessed. I've been to all 50 states. Now, I really don't. I can tell you the ones I don't like. I'm kidding. No, I mean they're all great. The biggest feather in the cap venue would be Avery Fisher Hall, Lincoln Center, New York City. I got to do a show there.
That's
That
awesome.
was cool. That was cool.
Well, Henry, I am so grateful to you for doing this. And I also want to thank you too, because Jamie Daly had heard me on XM radio and he referred me to the Grand Ole Opry and got them to consider me for it. And I know they also asked you and you gave them a thumbs up. So you're a regular on the Grand Ole Opry, and that has been such a highlight for me to get to do that. And I appreciate your endorsement of me. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. You're awesome. You know that. I support everything and anything you ever want to do. And the Opry could be my favorite venue. Coming from where we come from, it means something to us. And not only that, it was never in my wheelhouse. I never fathomed doing a show at the Opry. I'd done like benefit shows and stuff on the stage, but to actually be on the Grand Ole Opry, never thought about it. And now I get to do it all the time, and it still freaks me out.
I know, it's so cool. And my debut at the Opry, I went in and I thought, oh my gosh, I've seen more ego in the back of a comedy club than here at the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, the people were so kind and welcoming and inclusive. I mean, I was so impressed.
That's the greatest thing about it. The greatest thing about it is you see the respect, how the pioneers of country music are revered by the younger set. I mean, it's amazing. They understand why they're able to do what they get to do is because of the elder states people. I mean, and I love that the Opry still has on the pioneers of country music on every show.
On every show. And it is. I mean, those people are revered, and in the comedy business, they look at you like you're a dinosaur if you're, over 40. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. We're not hip anymore.
That's right. We're not cool enough to be in the room. So, well, thank you again. I so appreciate it. Much love to you and your family. And I hope you'll talk to me again sometime.
I will. I'm glad you're healthy. Love you.
Oh, thank you. Love you, Henry. Over and out.
Copy.